For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
Welcome to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. Now here's your host, Tim McMahon.
For its 20th anniversary, the adventure of a lifetime returns to the big screen.
Hey, it's Tim. I have a lot of t-shirts, too many according to my wife. So many that I don't even stick them in a drawer, I just pile them on the floor in my closet. Yes, it makes me sound like a slob, which I'm not denying, but this way I always get a new shirt at random and I don't end up wearing the same old t-shirts week after week. Today from the pile came my Star Wars Special Edition t-shirt. This is a t-shirt I got from a friend who worked at a theater in 1997. This is a shirt that was not sold, but was only given to theaters. It's pretty cool stuff. Anyway, the shirt is a little raggedy now and speckled with paint, but I still love it. Today, as I was putting it on, it really hit me that this shirt and the special editions are 20 years old. 20 years ago, we had the special editions. 20 years before that, Star Wars was first released. But 20 years before that, Sputnik, the first satellite, was launched. And 20 years before that, World War II had not broken out yet. Man, the passage of time is crazy. Anyway, all of this leads me to today's topic, the special editions. I'm sure plenty of other shows will do grand retrospectives this month, but this is Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. So let's see what I can spit out in less than 5 minutes. I was living in London when the special editions were first released. I went to the royal premiere of the film at the Odeon Theatre in Leicester Square, but I didn't get there early enough, so I didn't get a great view. I was way in the back of the crowd. I saw George, and you couldn't miss Peter Mayhew. Mark Hamill was there, as was Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker, but I don't really recall seeing them. Harrison Ford was not, because he was too cool for school, and Carrie Fisher wasn't there either, because if I remember correctly, this was the same week as the Academy Awards, and she was a writer on that show that year. There were lots of other actors from the trilogy there as well, and other stars at the time, but again, I was so far back in the crowd, I really missed out. However, the next day I had tickets for the first showing of the movie at that theater at 9 a.m., and the theater was packed. Keep in mind, the Leicester Square Odeon seats over 1,600 people, so it was quite the crowd. I mention this because this was the first time I really felt a sense of community among Star Wars fans. Many of the people at that showing were ones I recognized from the crowd the night before. As we waited for the lights to go down, we chatted like we were all long-lost childhood friends, even though we were complete strangers. And when the film started, we all laughed when Luke whined about Tosche Station, we all clapped when Obi-Wan removed his hood, and we all snickered when the stormtrooper hit his head in the Death Star. And of course, we all cheered at the end when the Death Star was destroyed. It was like we were seeing the film again for the first time. Honestly, I even remember us oohing and awing over the new editions. Funny how my opinion has changed since then. Speaking of opinion, so what do I think of the special editions? Well, I'm a guy who only watches the despecialized versions these days, so that kind of gives you an idea. I still hold out hope that someday we'll even get a cleaned up version of the original edit, but I'm not holding my breath. That said, I do like some of the additions. The Cloud City backgrounds are gorgeous and enlarge the scope of Bespin, and there are little tweaks here and there that work for me. But it's the big things that upset me. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole discussion of who shot first. That's a tired discussion to have at this point. In fact, really, my biggest problem is the addition of Jabba the Hutt in Episode 4. It doesn't add anything to the story. We get all the information from that scene in the previous scene with Greedo, and it takes away from the mystery and threat of Jabba. Sure, we all know him now, but back in the day, this threat looming over Han for 2 films led to a great payoff when we finally met the gangster in the 3rd one. If I could undo one change from the special editions, this would be the one. But all that said, I am thankful for the special editions because they really brought Star Wars back in a very big way. In the early 90s, Star Wars was gathering steam, but it was amongst people like us who would read the novels and comics, who would purchase the crappy Bendham's toys because that's all there was, and we would talk amongst ourselves online while the internet was still in its infancy. But a big screen re-release got Star Wars back in front of a much broader audience. It made the masses go, oh yeah, I remember Star Wars, it is cool. And the money they spent on movie tickets is what really primed the pump for the epic return of cinema's greatest franchise. So anyway, to sum up, I can't believe it's already been 2 decades since the special editions, and though they are looked down upon now by some, including myself, at that time they really were something very special. Especially to this nerd who finally felt like he was amongst his people. So, what's your history with the special editions? What do you think about them today? I want to know. Email me at 12parsecs.podcast@gmail.com or connect with me on social media. You can find all my links at 12parsecs.podcast.com. Thanks for listening. Utini!
Finally, the motion picture event, the way it was meant to be experienced.
This will be a day long remembered.
You've been listening to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy, part of the expanded Fandomverse network of shows. For links and show notes, visit our website, TwelveParsecsPodcast.com. Follow Less Than 12 Parsecs on Twitter at 12parpod, on Instagram at 12ParsecsPodcast, on Tumblr at 12ParsecsPodcast, and find us on Facebook as well. And please let us know what you think. Email us at 12ParsecsPodcast@gmail.com.